So we're gonna start. Welcome to our mindful moments. When every single Wednesday, 7:30 Mountain Standard Time. My name is Emma.
And my name is Chandra,
Join
and we're
thanks for
excited to be here with all of you tonight.
yeah. It's an important topic as we talk about different topics every week, and we just kind of chit chat for half an hour, spend some time together. Sometimes people will send us questions in the inbox or things they want us to talk about, so then we can bring those and just kind of have a chit chat. We are not like professionals in any way or giving any professional advice, just some of our own real lived experience. But our inboxes are always open if anybody needs anything. So tonight we're gonna kind of talk about domestic violence. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and so we're gonna kind of talk a little bit about that, and that will be kind of the theme for the month of October.
Yes, it's good to bring awareness to things like that.
Absolutely. And domestic violence does not discriminate, like religion, age, race, financial status, or anything like gender. It does not discriminate. Hello, welcome. So we are bringing awareness for the month, and did you want to share a little bit?
Um, like about my experience.
Hmm.
So I've been in maybe like a couple relationships, not to the point, like I know Emma, you've been through a lot more with dealing with domestic violence, which I know you'll share in a bit. But I haven't really been in like a domestic violence relationship where it's been physically abusive, but I have where like he's a narcissist and like treats like emotionally abusive and mentally abusive, where to the point I felt super. I've never been scared. Like that relationship actually was a very short relationship that I was in, only for a few months, and I've never been so scared of someone before or had the fear that he was going to hurt me or trap me. And I was actually very fearful to leave the relationship because he also lived really close to my parents too, and I was so worried that he was going to, like, because he did stalk me for a while after I did finally leave the relationship. I was scared to tell anybody. But once I did kind of leave that relationship, I had this fear as well that, oh my gosh, is he going to find me and like come like kidnap me and lock me in his basement and do bad things to me? Like that's how scared I was. Like he, like
Yeah.
just the energy and like the way he treated me, especially the most recent time before I finally decided, okay, I have to find a way out before this gets worse.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, Amanda was actually there at the time that I was talking about. Even she was scared too. The way he reacted to both of us. And then after, like she was gone, I know she was scared. I actually quietly tried to I tried to exit the house that night. And I went to my parents, cried my eyes out to them and told them everything that's been happening because I was hiding things from them because I was too scared to tell them what was going on. And I just pretended everything was okay. And then I just went and bawled my eyes out and addressed how scared I am. I'm not sure what his actions are going to be. And Amanda was even there to witness the worst time that I had as well, because I thought he was going to hurt both of us, actually.
Yeah. And that is domestic violence. If you're ever fearful for your safety, any
Yeah.
sort of stalking actually falls under domestic violence, and stalking is actually like a leading behavior.
Yeah.
And so that's really part of it. And you know, um, it's the power and control, right? And it sounds like he
Mhm.
had a lot of power and control over you because he controlled your emotions, which controlled like your fear, and it controlled what you did and
Yeah.
kind of things.
Exactly. And I was so scared to do something like, I was like, oh, and I didn't know if like he would, like at that time, I thought I was going to I've never been abused before, like physically. And I was so scared that that was actually going to happen.
Yeah. And
But
it can be emotional too. And emotional is just as damaging.
oh yeah, emotional. I was like complete wreck.
Yeah.
I've actually never been that scared in my life.
Yeah.
And like I'm an energy person too, and that night, like I felt this extreme like darkness. Like I just felt this really bad energy and I was like, oh my God, something bad is gonna happen to me tonight. I have to try and figure out a way that I'm gonna leave. Gotta find anything that is mine here because I'm not gonna ever make contact again.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. And What actually got you out the door?
Well, was his reaction, and then like, well, the way he reacted, he actually ended up storming out. Like he reacted to me and Amanda, and then continued to react to me a little bit, or to the point I thought he was going to hit me. But then he just kind of went up, storming up to his room, and I wasn't gonna go follow after to because after he reacted and like I wasn't sure like is he gonna hit me, like I kind of started walking up the stairs to be honest because I was gonna tell him that I'm sorry I have to leave, nobody talks to me or my friends like that. And as soon as I started walking up the stairs, that's when I felt the really bad energy, like I felt death,
Mhm.
like that's the kind of energy that I felt. I could He just gave off a big aura that I was made me more scared. So then I quietly tiptoed down and I just quickly found all my things that could have been mine. And then I just exited the house and I could see him like kind of looking, and I just quickly drove away and I called Amanda.
Yeah.
Or I don't know if I called her on my way or not. But then I went straight to my parents' house and I told them everything that's been going on. That night being the worst night, but it was a lot of things leading up to there, but I was just too scared to tell anybody. I was too scared to share with anybody. So I just pretended everything was okay. And it's like he was verbally and emotionally abusing me on
Mhm.
the side as well. And but he had a daughter too that I got attached to as well. So that made it difficult too because she
Absolutely.
is so sweet and stuff. So I feel like he used his daughter a lot as well to kind of make me feel trapped too, because he would
Absolutely.
always use his daughter against me, which is so wrong in my
Because
eyes
we
as
have
well.
emotions,
Yeah,
right? And they know that we feel deeply and we have those connections and build those connections.
yeah,
And yeah, a lot of times, unfortunately, children are involved in that
yeah.
um, and need extra support.
Yeah. And I felt so bad for the daughter because I've just seen some things that, yeah, I just felt so bad. And part of me is like, well, like I care about her. And I didn't, like, I just felt a little bit trapped, but I was like, no, I need to leave before this gets too bad, or else I'm going to end up getting abused and I'm going to get more stuck.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think that that's where a lot of women are, or men too. I just can't
Yeah.
speak from
And
a man's point of view, because I'm not a man, but I know that, even with women, they do the power and the control and those kind of things, and it's all abuse,
yeah,
right? And if it makes somebody feel fearful or, walking on eggshells or, that they don't have that freedom,
yeah.
and
When
even
you can't be your
even
true self.
yeah, and even the coercive control is like they're not actually physically putting their hands on you or sometimes ever doing
Yeah.
anything. You're afraid if you do something, you know what that reaction is going to be, so you don't do it. So that's the form of control, right? And that's
Yeah.
really, really scary.
Exactly. And even in that short amount of time, I could already tell that he was trying to isolate me from my friends and family as well, and already
Yeah,
trying to force
absolutely.
me to move in, which I wasn't going to move in that early, but he wanted, like, oh, just, and not to go. Like, I could already tell from certain things he was saying. I was like, no way, he's not. Because I'm like, he's not going to isolate me from all the people that I love. But that's what people do who are
Absolutely.
that way.
And they don't
And
have
I
to
could,
tell you not to talk to that
yeah,
person. It's when you
the
talk to
way
that
they,
person, how that they are going to respond and how they react.
yeah,
Because in my situation, I know there were many times that, because again, I played that everything was okay for so many years. And I was afraid to call my mom because he would have an outburst, or something like that. And I remember one incident when he actually called my dad. We had been in a big fight, a physical altercation, and I was sitting in the middle of the floor and I was crying. And he called my dad and he said, I don't know what's wrong with your daughter. Like, she's crazy. Like, she's just losing
oh,
it. All I could do was cry. And my dad's like, what is wrong with you? Because I didn't want to tell anybody about the abuse because there was so much shame, right? Um,
yeah.
so then for a long time, my dad is like, what is wrong with her? And that's what they do is they start to control other people's perceptions of you.
Yeah,
And then you want to hide that even more, right? So it's like, yeah, it's really, really
that's
difficult.
so true. And so sad that people can be that way as well. And
Yeah.
I feel so bad because there's so many women who are suffering with that. and we'll stay for years. Like I know you stayed for
Eight
a long
years.
time. Yeah, a very long time
Yeah,
in the
eight
relationship
years,
you're
and then
in.
it took just over 2 years to finish all the court. So
Yeah.
it was
And you're
it's
still
so
affected till this day
oh, absolutely,
with all
I am.
the damage that went on and all the abuse.
Absolutely, I am.
I'm so
Yeah,
grateful that
and
you got over that finally.
thank you. Yeah, it wasn't easy. And I think maybe that's one way that we can open up talking about, just some of the strategies. And again, it's not, we're not professionals telling you to leave or anything like this, but they're just different strategies you can think about when leaving. So I know when I was in my abusive relationship, um, a lot of the time I wouldn't have money, and I would work. I was fortunate enough to be able to work, but I wouldn't have money. So I'm like, how am I supposed to live? They give you $1,000 to flee abuse. Like, you can't even pay rent on $1,000, and that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. And I know that when, you go to like the welfare office or whatever, they will look at your finances and they're like, oh, you work, you have enough money. But he was like gambling the money away and things like this, but it looked on paper like I had the money. So I would take like dollar like loonies or like a $5 bill or something like that, and I would stick it between my books, the pages of my books. Because when I left, I could throw them in my car and then I could shake the books out and I had some money. So that's one thing that I did. And
That's a good tip to share. Yeah.
yeah, and getting a photocopy of your, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's so much bigger than what's on paper.
Mhm.
And getting copies of my ID, and I would put them in the soles of my shoes. So underneath the sole of my shoe, so that if I had to grab my shoes and run, then,
Yeah.
at least I had ID or my bank card or something like that. Um, they always talk about having a go bag ready to go. So if you have medications, having a couple days of your medication, having a change of clothes, having an extra set of keys, your IDs, those kind of things.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Another big one too is turning off the locator on your phone.
Oh, yeah. So they can't track you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because even when you take pictures and you have a locator on your phone, there are apps where people can tell where that picture was taken, right? If that's posted on social media or something.
Oh,
So just
really?
being really,
Yeah,
being
that's good
really
to know
aware.
then.
So when I take pictures and I do things, I always have my locator off.
Yeah.
So I do that, making sure that if you were on the computer or anything like that, you're clearing your history, so that, they're not tracking kind of where you're going. Any evidence that you do have of abuse, or any notes that you have or pictures that you have or something. I used to do that. And that's actually how I saved some of my stuff was, um, after an incident. I remember a couple times I had some, like my eyes were swollen right out, from black eyes and stuff. And I would take pictures and then I would send them to a secret email. And for
Mhm.
one day, if I ever wanted to bring it forward, because I never thought I was going to. Um, and uh, and yeah, so I would keep the evidence that way and send it to another, because um, if it's a um, if it's more than 2 years, like, so if it's an indictable offense, so a federal offense, then you can have a longer time. But if it's provincial, then you have up to 2 years. And SA, there is no statute of limitations to be able to report that. So just making sure you have those kind of things documented. And
Yeah. I know so many people did, and I'm bad for that, and Emma's even bad for it too. We both can relate because we both kept quiet. Well, you kept quiet
absolutely.
for much longer than I did. But some people take a long time though before they finally, come bring this awareness and exit that relationship.
And there's a lot of reasons why women stay. I mean, I think one of the biggest, I mean, there's so many, but one of the biggest things was the shame that I held to
Mhm.
go and tell somebody that this was happening. Um, yeah, it just, you know, to say that, and when you say it and you have to report it or you say it out loud, it
Yeah,
becomes so much more real, you know?
that's so true. And
Yeah.
I think
And silence is
maybe that's why
compliance,
I don't know
right?
why I had a hard time signing those. Maybe that's why 'cause I didn't realize why I did, but maybe you saying that is why I didn't come forward to tell anybody and just kind of like, oh, everything's great,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And there
Maybe
were
I was kind
threats
of holding
too.
something where I don't know what it was that was holding me back, or I don't know if it was fear, or maybe it was shame.
Hmm. Shame is nasty. It can do a lot of things, right? And hope. Hope is another thing that it's a very positive
Yeah,
word and it's got like,
that's
it's
gonna get better.
really good, but it can cause a lot of damage too, is having hope that that person will change, having hope that things will get better, you know, having hope that if you just do it something different, then they're gonna react differently, you know,
Yeah,
and hope can keep people in a relationship for a really long time too.
that's true. That's true. And that's actually what kept me in my other previous relationship that I was in for a little bit longer was hope that it was like I was dealing with addictions and all these things. He kind of had narcissistic behavior and I had hope that he was going to get better. And I had blamed that. Like, is he doing all this because so he'd make it seem like it was my fault?
And that's exactly it, right? Like in the
Yeah.
beginning, they make you, and I'd say not just in the beginning, but
Throughout the
throughout,
whole
there's periods of
relationship.
time that you
Yeah.
feel really good and you feel really hopeful and you get up on that pedestal, right? And as I think about it, the higher I got on that pedestal, the harder that fall was when, you know, that disappointment came or, you know, that cycle came back around because domestic violence is cyclic. So it goes in a cycle. And so when that come back around, you know, every time you're up on that pedestal, you fall down and it's like, it's hard.
Yeah, no, for sure.
And
And
the part that you're talking about him saying things and stuff like that, like corrodes your self-esteem and your self-worth and what you think about yourself very
oh
slowly,
yeah.
right?
It completely affected the way I thought. And then I actually he brainwashed me so much to think that it's my fault why he's doing these things or acting this way.
Yeah.
And I'm bipolar because one
Yeah,
minute I'm happy, one minute I'm sad or whatever because he's reacting or like, trying to just mess with your head, right?
absolutely it does. Absolutely
Yeah.
it does.
Um, and in 2019, wasn't there like a new law that was brought to help with domestic violence?
Yeah, absolutely. That's Clare's law. So Clare's law is in some provinces, not all provinces, in Canada, but it was actually named after Clare Wood, who was in the United Kingdom, and she was unalived by her partner, and she didn't know that he had had such a history. So that's when Clare's Law came about in the United Kingdom. They're so much more ahead of us, by the way, like
Yeah.
in their laws and things. But so yeah, so they developed what was called Clare's Law. And we will leave information for the domestic violence in the United States and in Canada. When we upload this onto YouTube, we will put the links there. I will also put the information for Clare's Law.
Yeah.
So you have to live in that province that Clare's Law is approved in.
Okay.
And you have to be in an intimate partner relationship. You don't have to live together, but you have to be in some sort of relationship with them. And so you click on the application and you can fill out an application. You have to have the reasons why you're applying. So if you feel that, you know, there are steps towards power and control, or if you feel that you are at risk or you've been at risk and those kind of things, you would document those reasons why, because they don't want people just maliciously going to get information and things. And it is hard to like articulate sometimes, right? But you just have to put what you're worried about in that relationship, and then you have to be willing to meet with police to get that information, because again, with the Freedom of Information and Protection Act, um, everybody's information is protected in Canada, but with this law, if there is a risk to that person and they are accepted, then they can meet with police and police can disclose Not everything, like they don't disclose the exact charges or anything like this, but they disclose the patterns of behavior which lead to abuse, or if there is a domestic violence history, so that you can make an informed decision. Oh yeah, Ohio has, yeah,
Marcy's law.
Maythay's law. Yeah, yeah. Um, so I'm just going to quickly run over the definition underneath the Clare's law. So this is what Clare's law looks at when they're looking at the definition for domestic violence. Is actual or threatened use of force in an intimate partner relationship. May include a single act or numerous acts, including physical, SA, emotional, psychological, criminal harassment, stalking, threats to harm you, your pets, your family, your friends, children, property damage, or exerting control over your movements, communications, or any finances. So that's pretty broad. And so if you're feeling that there's some power and control happening, or that you're starting to feel a bit worried about these things, you know, you would fill that out in the application. You send it through. The person that they're looking up, if you get accepted, they won't know. So they're not notified
That's good to
that
know.
you requested this information. Yeah.
Because that also adds fear if like they were notified, because then you're like, well, if they find out that I'm recording them,
Absolutely.
then you're extra scared, right? That they're really going to come after you. So that's really
Yeah.
good to know that, you know, the person will not know.
Absolutely. And so, yeah, so if you're accepted, they'll let you know. And then once they have gathered whatever information that they're able to share with you, then you have a meeting with them and you have to sign papers to make sure. I think like consents or something, you know, to say that you like this information or your process, or maybe at the beginning, I'm not sure, but in the application somewhere it says something about like um, it's confidential. You know, you can't be sharing information because it's only for your safety and protection. But
Yeah.
men and women can use it, and LGBTQ, anybody can go and utilize that service. Again, I'm not an expert at it. I just I know, and I'm going to send in the link, which gives all the information that basically I've just given. So if anybody ever needs to access that.
Yeah, will be available. And if anybody on here knows anybody who is suffering with domestic violence, feel free to send them our YouTube channel, send them this video. It'll be up there. And all the information they'll need will be on there as well. And we'll be doing a series throughout this month too.
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll take little dives here and there into different information. The other thing is, if there is information that you're interested in knowing, or questions you have, or questions about domestic violence, anything like that, if you could send it to either of our inboxes, you can send it, or you can write it underneath the YouTube video if you have questions, or send it to our Instagram private messages, and we will make sure to collect them and answer them, or at least talk about them the best we can on the next couple videos.
Yes, for sure. And know that our DMs are always open.
Absolutely.
Anytime that you need to reach out.
Absolutely. And there is absolutely no shame, and it is not your fault.
Yeah.
And I know we can say that, and it feels very, very different when you're in that situation. But there's no judgment here from us. We've experienced things.
Yeah, we've
God bless you too.
experienced it firsthand.
Yeah. So we're here to support. We want you to be safe and happy and healthy. And yeah, so I hope that you guys come and continue to join us next Wednesday, 7:30 Mountain Standard Time. Aw, thank you so much.
You are all so amazing as well.
We appreciate everybody.
Every single one of you. And all of your support means a lot to us.
Yes, it really does. It really does. Thank you so much, everybody.
Okay.
I hope that you have a great night.
Love and light to all of you.
Thank you. Bye.
And always remember, you are loved.
Absolutely. Take care.
Have a good night.